Morning, everyone. It's great to have you here on a Monday morning. It's great to have the room full. I had the privilege of meeting our campus guest here for the next 2 days, Brett Ruthberg, from the class of 1997, not too many years ago. And when I met Brett down in Charlotte, where he and his family have lived, I immediately said, you got to get to campus sometime sooner than later. And so we've talked a handful of times trying to make it work calendar-wise, and he'll tell you why he, this calendar date worked for him. But what I love about Brett's experience is he spent a lot of his time over here in the Payne Center for Science, planning to become a doctor when he arrived on campus, majoring in biology and chemistry. But it's really the life skills, the liberal arts, the business skills that he learned here and has fostered through his career is why he's going to talk to you today. What is Houghton's mission? What do we produce? We produce scholar servants. Brett epitomizes what it looks like to be a scholar servant. He is living out that calling each and every day in a very different field than what he expected when he first came to Houghton's campus. And that's why I love why he's back here today to share with you. So let's give our attention to Brett Ruthberg. Thank you.
All right, well, glad everyone's mostly awake. It's 9 o'clock and not 8 o'clock, so that's positive. I'm Brett, as Carl mentioned there, and thank Dr. Payne for having me here. So this is like assembly back in elementary school, right? Somebody's gonna come up and talk for a while. Let's make it iterative. Let's, if you got questions, if I'm saying something that doesn't make sense, or like raise your hand, and we can talk about it. So, why I'm here, Bills game yesterday. Any Bills fans? None? Where's another one?
Yeah,
Now everybody's a Bills fan.
All right, there we go. So it says Packers up there. We did 12 years in Wisconsin. It's in the blood. It's in the water up there. But I have a good friend who's the linebackers coach in Buffalo. So wherever he's at, and if you're an NFL coach, it's a nomadic lifestyle. We usually zip up for a game a year. So it just worked out that we were coming into town for the Bucks game. And Carl's like, hey, can you come and talk to some of the students? I'm like, well, if they want to hear from me, fine. Let's see how that goes. But it was pretty surreal going back to Buffalo. What I realized, it's been over 25 years. And my wife Lisa's in the back. And she typed in directions to Houghton. And I realized I'm on no roads that I'm familiar with. And this should tell you how old I am. Waze did not exist when I was going from the Galleria Mall back to Houghton. It did not, it was maps. So the ways that I knew to get back to school from Buffalo were the wrong ways, right? Times change, things change, tools change. But it's definitely bringing back memories to be here. So thank you for an hour of your time. Hopefully something I say will resonate. If not, you're not in lecture today, so that's positive. So think of the upside there. I want to talk a little bit about just background here. My job is my job. My life is my life, right? So married 24 years. Best choice ever made in my life. Choose your partner wisely. I will say that is definitely mission critical. I have 2 kids, and looking at you guys, realizing I am old. They're both graduated college now. My daughter went to Ball State. She was a gymnast. Now she's at law school at UNC. My son went to West Virginia, and now he's in Jersey doing his first job. Currently, I'm the Chief Supply Chain Officer at Highline Warren. Anyone know what a Chief Supply Chain Officer does? Okay, so I run all of operations, procurement, R&D, and planning for the company. So it's an interesting role. It's nothing to do with what I studied. Okay, and we'll talk a little bit about kind of that journey and kind of taking opportunity as it comes. Okay, now I've been 25 years in the petrochemical industry. I'm a relatively serious person in the real world. I've operated all around the world, led supply chains in Asia, Europe, a lot of different great experiences. Worked for Unilever, SC Johnson, Bain Capital. So some good experience there. But what I would tell you is when I was sitting in your seat, I was not a serious person. Okay? So you guys are probably all ahead of where I was when I was sitting in these chairs. Okay? The journey is different for each of us, and that's kind of what makes it fun. Okay? So, when I was at Houghton, let's just be honest about it. So I came here at 17, and the goal was to study pre-med. And you may ask why. It's because I only do like 5 jobs existing. As a doctor, lawyer, business person, like teacher, and sort of like fireman, police officer. So my parents were Salvation Army officers, which is a different experience. So growing up, moving around different inner cities, really a lot of service, learning that part of it. I didn't have any real mentors in anything other than what I would call spiritual life, right? So their mission was the ministry. My job was to kind of join in the family business growing up. So interesting experience, right? Got to live in Harlem, got to live in downtown Cleveland, got some basketball skills along the way, which was useful. But really, it was their mission, not my mission, okay? And I came here because my mom came here, and partly because the structure of Houghton, I knew at 17, if I went to a state school, I'd probably be home delivering furniture in 6 months or so. And I was awfully close to being home delivering furniture in 6 months my freshman year, okay? So what I will say is the structure that Houghton provides, the care and love that your professors and your classmates give you, it is incredibly valuable. You don't get that everywhere. And, early freshman year, wasn't going to class enough, right? Had some great friends that helped me through the last couple weeks and made sure I stayed on my scholarship and went from there. So the people in this room, your friends that help you along the way, incredibly valuable in the journey. What I will say is, I want to be a doctor, but I didn't know why. Now, looking back, I know why. I want to make a good living. I want to be in a respected profession. And I thought that's what smart kids did, okay? And all the wrong reasons to pick a major, to pick a vocation when you're 17, okay? Didn't realize that was a terrible fit for me until I was probably halfway through my degree. So, last 2 years of my degree was like, okay, I'm studying things I don't really care about. I don't want to change my major. Let's get through this. And what I would say that's not ideal. So if you've got a good view of what your future looks like, what your vision, not necessarily your job, but like who you want to be when you're an adult, when you're functioning, you're way ahead of where I was, okay? So, having that view, having that vision of where you want to go, and then driving towards it, you're steps ahead, okay? So one of the things I hear a lot, like for the intern classes and things like that, is I feel like I'm falling behind. I feel like, I'm not where I need to be. I can assure you, in no uncertain terms, I was wildly behind you when I was sitting in your chairs, okay? My summers were spent lifeguarding. I never punched a time clock. I had no plan for my career when I was coming out of Houghton. That is not Houghton's fault. That is 100% on me. But the reality is, you're young, you don't know what the future holds, okay? So, to give you the perspective, I'm a serious person now, did a lot of really cool things, probably have some perspective to give you. When I was in these chairs, I was not a serious person. So if you can take some of the lessons that I had in not being a serious person, understand where you're already ahead, take some of the lessons that I've learned along the way, hopefully you'll get something out of this time together, okay? So, early here, freedom was a distraction, okay? Let's be honest, I was way more interested in playing pickup basketball, intramurals, spent a lot of time in the weight room, a lot of time seeing which girls were interested in me, most weren't. I would also say, if you ask my professors, they're probably a little surprised that I'm here with you today, which is kind of fun. My RA works over there. My freshman year RA works over there somewhere in the president's office. He'll be surprised I'm here. But realistically, I would say my academic performance was under expectations. All right, came in scholarship student. I think there were some high hopes, and it just didn't resonate. Academic performance for me, those of you that love it, are into it, it's phenomenal, right? You are ahead of the game on that. But for me, the returns on it, I was constantly prioritizing my time and my mind share on other things. All right? Now, not the right choice, that's a reality. And looking back, I think I probably squandered a couple of years here where I could have picked up a lot more in my education. That being said, I learned a lot, right? I had some great professors, created some base knowledge, liberal arts piece. It lets you connect with a lot of different people, not just scientists or business people, R&D people. You get a broad base of knowledge, so you can have conversations with a lot of different people, and that is incredibly valuable as you're building your relationships. We'll worry about all that. So I won't go through that. What I want to talk to you guys about a bit is early career, okay? My lessons that I've learned in leadership, being an executive, things like that, those will be down the road for you guys. In the beginning, when you leave college, you're a player, right? Your usefulness is going to be your attitude, your ability to learn quickly, your ability to fill in gaps, and quite frankly, get from rookie to stable player as quickly as possible, okay? What's the spread here? How many freshmen? Sophomores? Juniors? Seniors? All right, got it. So for the juniors and seniors, workforce is coming pretty soon. For freshmen and sophomores, probably internships, things like that. Great experience. Like I said, I did 5 years of lifeguarding. No useful experience there. So if you guys are already getting work experience, you're ahead of the game, right? You know what it looks like to go to work. You know what it looks like to not know what you're doing, right? And to be, relying on other people to teach you, okay? So what I would say, the most important thing is get started, okay? My getting started, I would not recommend to anyone here, all right? Graduated with a degree in biology, minor in chemistry. My parents moved to Cleveland the summer that I graduated college. We were living in Cincinnati. The only thing I wanted to do was not move to Cleveland. So I started my career with the one objective: eat and pay rent. And what I was qualified to do at that time was to titrate chemical solutions. I got a job working $10 an hour at a factory, okay? It was the very bottom job in the factory. It was the most money I've ever made in my life. I was able to pay rent, I was able to eat. I'm like, okay, this works. We got through a connection. I had two choices. I could either inspect hams at Hillshire Farms, and that would have paid $10.25 an hour, or I could work at a soap factory owned by Unilever, which I didn't know that company at the time, but one of the largest companies in the world, for $10 an hour. And I said, I'd rather not wear a coat while I was doing my first job. So my first career choice, completely by accident, was accidentally working for one of the largest chemical companies in the world at the very bottom job. And not a real choice, but it was one of the best things I did in my career. Completely accidental. Now, I'm rolling in, thinking, all right, making more money than I ever have. I was making $7 an hour lifeguarding, now I'm making 10. The guy unloading the drums off the truck and putting them on pallets made $11 an hour. All right? So it's not about money, it's not about anything else like that, but did not take advantage of any of my education when I started my career. Now, the good thing is I accidentally ended up at a world-class company that was world-class at recognizing talent and developing young people. So I would say, number one thing is, as you're looking for that first job, as you're looking for where you're starting, get started, right? Don't wait for the perfect thing. Don't wait for, hey, I want it to be here, and only these jobs are good enough for me, and only these jobs are appropriate for a college graduate. I learned more working in a factory for 2 years, and I wasn't on the floor, but working in the lab and then quickly going to supervision of how business works, how industry works, how decisions are made, the language of business. All of that was completely foreign to me before I started, right? I knew Salvation Army, and I knew Houghton, right? So this was a brand new ocean for me to start swimming in. This is a lovely lake here, right? It's calm, it's great for development, it's great for learning. Once you're out of the lake and the ocean, it's a very different world. And you're ready for it, but it's gonna be definitely gonna be different. So what happened from there is I got opportunity, okay? I got mentors. And the best thing about starting at the bottom, they don't expect much of you, right? You get to learn, You get to flow from there. Because day one, I would say this in the nicest way, you're useless, right? Day one on your first job, you come in and you're not really helpful at much, right? You've got a good education, you may have good study habits, you can control your attitude, you can control your work ethic, right? But as far as knowing what to do, knowing where you can be helpful, that's going to take time. So, number one thing you can do in the early career is get from useless to stable as quickly as possible, right? And the way to do that is exactly what you do today, right? Have the great study habits, take notes, show up on time, ask questions, don't make people tell you twice, right? Do the same things you're doing here, get your A's, right, as you're ramping up in your career. Now, for me, looking back, I realized that's what I was doing. At the time, I was trying to pay rent, I was trying to eat, right? So the practical realities of living on your own, having to do those things, that was really what was going on. But what made it work is I took the skills that I learned here, translated them to an early career. It's like, okay, I don't want to be a problem. I want to get to being a useful player, fill my spot as quickly as possible. Okay? So to me, that's, as you think about those first couple months, and for some of you that's far away, and some of you that's like 6 months from now. Okay? So as you think about starting out, know that you're not going to be changing the world right away at your new company. You're going to be ramping up. You're going to be coming on, into a whole flow of water right in your face pretty early. All right. The other thing that I did, completely by accident, but Carl talked a little about being a servant and being a servant leader. I was not a leader early, right? You're not a leader when you start somewhere. Is find a way to be useful. Okay? And each of you guys have skills. You have things that you're good at, independent of where you're at in a company. All right. Whether it's computer skills, whether it's simply, I took the lunch order for the first year, right? Why? Because I need to get lunch anyway. But it created relationships with people in the office. It gave me time to interact with them, touch and base. I was able to do a task and accomplish it. People got fed. It sounds stupid, right? It sounds ridiculously fundamental. But what it did is it helped me build relationships and connections with people that would have happened much slower if I had to take the initiative to be a servant to the people that I was working with. And strangely enough, those things became useful because the first time I screwed up badly at work, people had my back, right? I had made those connections, I knew who they were, and as opposed to like, all right, you guys screwed up, let's fire him. It was, no, we like this guy. He's helpful. He brings the Greek food occasionally, right? They were there saying, okay, here's how we get through it. Here's how you don't get fired. Here's how you go forward. And you think of those little paths, those little small things in your career where you can be useful, right? And I wasn't getting lunch forever. But early on, that's what I could do, right? I wasn't able to formulate products, didn't know a lot about industry, but I filled in a gap. I filled in a gap right away, and it was helpful. And it created allies within the company that were useful. Now, those same allies very quickly realized that I probably shouldn't be in the lab, and moved me into other opportunities. They were looking out for me in rooms that I wasn't in. And everybody says, the number one thing you got to do is get mentors, right? It's easy to say. Easy to say. How do you get advocates for you when you're starting your career? People thinking about opportunities for you. The way to do that is to be useful. Find out what's important to them, find out what's needed, and fill that gap. When you talk about being a servant, that is the number one way to do it. Not focused on me, focused on what does the team need, what does the company need, and then you're the glue there. And at a simple level, it doesn't have to be, hey, I solved this massive problem. It's like, I help hold things together. I help make other people's lives easier, help make their jobs easier so we can do more together. And early in your career, that's one of the skills that every one of you is going to have, right? Seeing where the small gaps are and helping fill them. And when I think about the talent that I want to develop, on the broad teams that I have, those are the type of people I'm looking for. Because those personality traits, those interests, those Fundamentals, those carry with the person throughout their career. Now, obviously, you need horsepower, you need work ethic, you need all those things. But you're looking for those team players, those people that are willing to fill in the gaps, do the things that other people don't want to do. That's the type of person you're looking for. Okay. It sounds basic. It sounds like, yeah, okay, Brett, we know all this stuff anyway. This is obvious stuff. You would be shocked how many people start their careers and they're just gazing at their belly button, thinking, how do I? Right? Just focused on individual contributions. Start thinking broader, thinking about the whole team and where you can help the whole team. Many of you guys are athletes, many of you girls are athletes here. Similar concept, same skills. A lot of you guys are servant leaders, right? You're doing things in the summer, whether it's mission work or other things. Same concepts carry as you go into the workforce. All right. Early career, and take it for what it is. Really didn't talk about what I did, man. So I work for Highline Warren. No one knows what that company is. We're a $2 billion private equity portfolio company. We make Rain-X, we make Mobil 1. We're the largest producer of motor oil in the US, outside of the majors. And we distribute about 30,000 different things to the automotive aftermarket. I have zero automotive experience before I joined this company. But the things I learned in my career made it appropriate for that job. What I would say, any environmentalists in here? All right, no worries. What I would say is motor oil is actually super environmentally friendly, by the way. 70% of it gets reused. It's better than glass, and it's better than plastic when it comes to that. So if there's anybody that's my company. That's what we do. I realized I didn't cover that early, so it's probably something like, what is this guy actually doing here? So been there for almost 3 years. Prior to that, I was with a company called Steppen. It's a chemical company in Chicago. You probably never heard of them either, but I joined right before COVID. And one of the main businesses in there is we made the actives for Clorox wipes. So if you think about an adventure at the time, if you've ever had a product that was in wild undersupply and you have to figure out as a supply chain leader how to get it, that was my responsibility at that point. And just anecdotally, just a funny story there. Weekly calls with the Department of the Army and Homeland Security on where they were willing to send transport planes anywhere in the world to get the raw materials for Clorox wipes. But the only place that they made them was China, and they wouldn't send them there. So that's why you guys couldn't get Clorox wipes for about 18 months. So that was my fault. All right, anecdote. So, early career. And I've got a lot of business stories, I've got other things we could talk about, but what I want to do is at least make this relevant to you guys as you think about starting your career. In the beginning, like I said, you're a player, right? Your usefulness is your personal abilities, your abilities to individually contribute to part of a greater good. In the NFL and other places, those are the guys who get paid, all right? In the business world, advancement goes from becoming a player to a coach, all right? But at the beginning, you got to be the best player you can be. You don't get to be a coach unless you're a great player. So you do have to focus on how you're building your toolbox, how you're building out your experiences, how you're seeing how all the pieces fit. The best time to do that is early, because you do a lot of different things early. Once you're a director at a company, you're that, right? You're the director of sales, you're a salesperson, right? If you're the director of R&D, you're an R&D person. But early in your career, what you are is a useful player. So my recommendation, this completely happened by accident, is I got to do my 28 years of working, I've had 19 different jobs, okay? And what makes me the most useful is I know how all the pieces fit together. I know where the gaps in the industry are, where the company the gaps are, how different functions work together or don't work together. And the way I got that experience is, in my first 10 years, I did 10 different roles, okay? Different things, whether it was supply chain, whether it was R&D, whether it was chemistry, I did planning, logistics. Those experiences early, moving around to different things, and it wasn't intentional, right? You guys may start working for great companies, you're like, we have a plan for you, right? We're gonna put you here in accounting, we're gonna put you here in supply chain, we're gonna put you here in sales and marketing. If you start somewhere there like that, Awesome, right? It means you've jumped onto an organization that knows how to develop talent. If not, find those opportunities to learn different things further. Because the opportunity to advance, it's not being an expert in one thing. It's great for faster advancement, but what I'd say is really knowing how all the pieces fit together, really knowing where the gaps are, where the opportunity to fill it, that's where you're going to provide the most value. And the best time to do it is early in your career because you're a player. You can fill a role. You don't have to lead. You don't have to be expert when you're early in your career. So as you think about that, and I know it's going to be a couple months away for some of you, keep that in the back of your mind. It's like, how do I get the broadest possible experience early in my career to learn the most possible things? That's going to give you a foundation in industry that you can grow from. And like I said, for me, it was accidental. I just went where the opportunity was. I went where the problems were. All right. So, any questions on this? I'm sort of rattling off a lot of pithy things, but, well, good. If anything comes up on that, just, if I'm saying anything you guys are curious about, just holler. Who are the A students here? Who's got a GPA above 3.5? Raise them higher.
Come on, now's the time to brag.
Be proud of it. Higher, raise them higher. Awesome. All right. Means you've got your priorities straight. It means you know how to allocate your time. It means you're putting your effort where the most value of that work is. Okay? That is awesome in college, and it is incredible in early career. All right? The hardest things that I have to do is taking phenomenal students, Northwestern grads, whatever, when they go to management, because there's never enough time and resources once you go higher up in a company. Okay? So the advice that I'll give you as you start your career is in college, it's really clear, all right, GPA, I need to get an A in this class. I'm going to put this amount of work, this amount of coordination, this amount of effort to get an A here. All right? When you go to industry, there's a lot of things that are pass-fail. All right? There's a lot of things that just need to get done. And there's a handful of things that you need to get an A on. And here's the problem. No one tells you what they are. Okay? So for the great students, what can happen frequently is you feel you have to get an A on everything. All right? And what ends up happening is you put your resources and your time on things that either don't matter for the company or people aren't paying attention to. Okay? So the advice that I give you on this one, and for me this was never a problem as you heard of in my early academic career, the advice I give you is get an A on everything. Right? Your early work, put the time in, the assignments you have, the responsibilities you get, crush them. Right? If somebody gives you the opportunity to be responsible for something, get that in. And then look back at it and determine whether that was something you needed to put max effort on or whether it was really pass-fail. Okay? So you're not going to know which things in your career are truly pass-fail and which things you need to crush until you start doing them. But you're going to end up doing more and more things. So as you get that experience, like, okay, does this have to get done, completed because I need to keep the trains running? Or is this something I need to absolutely crush because it's valuable for my career? And that prioritization, like in college and other things, they tell you, your professors tell you, right? This goes into your GPA, you want that 4.0, you know what you have to crush. In the business world, completely unclear. So that ambiguity, that's something that a lot of great students struggle with because internally, I have to get an A on everything. My daughter's that way, right? Stressed out, it's like more work than time. The best thing I can tell you is after you complete something, you look back and make that determination. Was this a pass-fail assignment or was this something I needed to crush? And this probably won't make sense to you now because you got to crush everything in college, right? You got to get your A's. But in the business world, you'll very quickly find out 80% of things are pass-fail. But if you do pass-fail on things that you need to crush, you're not going to do well. All right, that is one of the hardest things to figure out. But I would say just have that retrospection as you complete things. To say, okay, next time I do it, is this fast and done, or is it something I'm going to stay up to midnight on? And make sure that my department head or my vice president knows that I got it done. Okay? What I will say is, if it's important to your boss, it's probably worth crushing. If it's important to keep the trains running, get it done. All right. What are we doing on time? Hopefully I'm not boring you guys. If not, like I said, it's assembly. At least you missed a lecture. All right. Couple things here, and we talked about how to make an impact early. What I would say when I started my career, I had no vision for where I wanted to be. Okay, I'm not talking job level. I'm not talking anything else. Like a vision for my life as a person, as a functional member of society, as a servant. It was, I'm paying rent and I'm eating. Okay, and what I realized is, and this happened organically, is I created a vision for who I wanted to be as a person, as a man. And that was, I wanted to be a husband. I wanted to be a father. I wanted to be financially independent. I wanted to provide value, right? And that vision is something different than your work goals, okay? So as you think about it, you're sitting here, right? You're 18, 19, 20, whatever it is, 21 years old. I would say having a clear view of, I don't say what you want to be when you grow up, but who you want to be when you grow up. What does life look like as you are progressing down? And as an old guy here standing, I'd say, okay, that's really what helped me create my work path, is because it supported who I wanted to be as a person, right? I had a vision for, I want to be able to, like I said, make money, add value, affect positive change, coach my kids' teams, right? Have a house, and support my family, support my parents. Those were the things that I envisioned for myself being able to do, right? My work and putting the effort into my career and doing those things is what enabled me to get to that vision. And what I see a lot of times is people's vision of their future. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a CEO. I want to be a vice president of sales. I want to be. But it's like, what I would say, what I challenge you on this is, who do you want to be, right? Who do you want to be as a person? Who do you want to be as a spouse? What are the things that you want to do beyond work? Because work enables those things. If your fulfillment is your job, right? If your identity is your job. You see, I didn't start my thing with, this is my position, this is what I do. It's like, I'm a husband, I'm a father, I care about my family, I care about things that are important to me. That's the vision that I would challenge all of you to create for yourselves. It's not what do you want to be when you grow up, but who do you want to be when you grow up? And then the job enables that vision to come true, okay? And if you really want to be non-fulfilled in life, have your vision be your work, right? If what you want to be when you grow up is a job, it's not going to go well, all right? Have a view of who you want to be versus what you want to be, if that makes sense. And for me, that was an accidental journey, right? It happened as a matter of course, but looking back, as I think about being, happy, right, fulfilled, it's that combination of I'm becoming who I want to be as a grown-up, as a person, as a leader, and my job is enabling those things, okay? It's maybe a different way of thinking about it, because right now it's like your responsibility is you, right? Your focus is you, right? Academic performance, athletic performance, maybe in the workforce, whatever it is. But have a view of where you want to be, who you want to be as you're progressing in your life and your career. And that's going to help you, more than anything, versus, oh man, I didn't make director before I was 30, or hey, I wasn't I missed on this promotion, or whatever it is. If it's leading towards your journey of who you want to be, that's the path. That's that touchstone that I think will really, prioritize things, both work and life. So, I would imagine most of you guys are ambitious, right? Most of you guys want to come out of Houghton and join the workforce, be comfortable, make some money, pay rent, eat, all those things. All of you will, right? You guys are the brightest minds out there. You go to a great school, you're getting a great education, you've got fundamentals that make you valuable in the workforce. Your base, your floor is pretty high, right? Coming out of here, you're gonna be okay, right? So if there's fear in your mind of like, oh man, are we driving truck, or that's fine too, but you're gonna be fine, right? You put the work in, you keep the fundamentals clear, you do the things you need to do, you're going to be okay, all right? Now, if you've got aspirations beyond that, right, that's where you gotta think differently about it. But like at a base level, you're doing all the right things, okay? So I've talked to students, I've talked to the interns in my company, other things. There's this fear, like what if? You guys, unless you completely drop the ball, your floor is gonna be pretty good. Your life's gonna be pretty solid. Now, what you do from there, that's the part that's up to you, okay? And the advice I'll give you on this, and like I said, some of you guys are gonna be farther away from this, is advancement, opportunity, if things are calm, if things are working well, will happen very slow, okay? It means you're in a great situation. It means your company's functioning well. It means the opportunity to solve problems and fix things is gonna be intermittent. I would postulate to you that your opportunity to grow and advance once you get from rookie to stable player is find where there are broken things, find where there are problems, find parts of a company that aren't working right? And what I tell people is it's like battlefield commissions, right? In normal military and peacetime, your advancement is every couple of years, you get a promotion. I've had some buddies in the Navy, in the Army. When things are calm, when things are quiet, life is good, but things move slow, all right? Your opportunity is to find where it isn't. Find where the water's moving faster. Find where things aren't working. Find where the company is losing money. Find where the talent isn't good enough. Find where things aren't good and put your talents towards that, right? Because the fastest way to get promoted, the fastest way to get ahead is a battlefield commission. Hey, I'm not qualified for this job, but I just did it, right? That is the way to advance most quickly. Now, I didn't know that. I was just like, I hated when things didn't work. I hated when I didn't know something. I hated when the machine was running slow. Or when I say machine, I mean part of the company was running slow. And I look at it like, why can't we get it together? Why can't we be smarter? Why can't we put more talent? Why can't we focus differently? And just inherently, it wasn't intentional, it just drove me nuts. So for me, it was one of these things where, I don't know, like personality-wise, some of you in this room are like, you look at something broken and you'll walk by. That's okay, because you've got your own responsibilities. But if you're wired to look at something like, oh man, that's gotta get fixed, like lean into that. Lean into that piece, because what I will tell you is, if you can demonstrate that you've got the mindset and the ability, and even just the willingness, because none of this is that hard, right? This is business, right? This isn't rocket science. This isn't heart surgery. Like fundamental level, this is about making products, getting to your customer, getting paid, right? And if you can keep that view and go where things are broken, put your efforts and time towards that, and whether you're qualified for the job or not, you did the job, you'll get that job, right? And that's how things happen fast. That's how you can get 19 jobs in 28 years and advance quickly. If you're doing the same thing for 5 years, it's just gonna happen slow, right? It may match your vision of what you want to do. It may give you plenty of free time to, focus on different things, to rock climb, to do the state parks, and that may be great. That may be your priority, and that's good, right? You'll be paying your bills, you'll be comfortable, but if you want to get ahead, go where it's broken. Go where people really need talent and interest and things aren't going well. And, for me, that's been the biggest thing, is I've always been willing to do, to go where things are broken, right? I just anecdotally, one of my promotions a couple years ago, our South Korea business was losing money. And my boss came to me and he's like, hey, there's a supply agreement that is out of whack, the business is dropping, they owe penalties. I flew to South Korea for a week. I sat with an interpreter, the owner of the factory that we were partnering with, and we figured out a path where we would sell more and they would make more. And if we committed to our part and they committed to their part, we could get this division back to profitability. Now, I didn't know anything about South Korea. I didn't speak the language, right? But I knew fundamentally it was like, all right, we're going to be able to, we put enough time in this, we're going to figure it out, all right? So spent a week there, hammered out the deal, signed that managing director up to a commitment he wasn't ready to sign up for because I was the expert from out of town and I could do that. And took that responsibility, and then my chief supply chain officer at the time said, okay, now you run supply chain for Asia. Because I fixed a problem that he had, fixed it quickly, and got that opportunity. Wasn't qualified for the job, right? Hadn't really operated in Asia before, but stepped in, did it, and then I was qualified, right? So as you think about that as you start, be willing to accept the challenge and figure it out later, but you better figure it out, right? So if you're gonna take on a challenge, taking on a challenge and not doing it, that's a quick path out the door. But being confident in your abilities, understanding, hey, I'm gonna figure it out, and I'm gonna pull in experts from other areas that know more things, that's a path to move quickly. And it can be risky, but it's a lot more fun that way too. So, just a little something there. We're running out of time here, and I've really gone on and on. So I'll open the door for some questions. I got some marketing swag here. So if you ask a question, you get an air tag. So who's curious about something? Yeah.
Hi.
Sorry.
No, it's great. So you said you worked like 19 different positions in these 20 years.
Yeah.
So how do you find the transition between each job, and how do you acclimate to your new position?
Great question. Understand you don't know anything when you're going to the next place. Right? So what I would say is those early experiences where you can maybe do a lot of different things early, you get perspective, right? And if you can take knowledge from one thing and bridge it to the next thing, it's okay, let's say I'm going from operations, right, factory, and now I'm in transportation. Where I was useful to that group is I knew how the factories worked, right? I knew the constraints they had, I knew the things that they struggled with as they transitioned things to the transportation logistics group. I became their expert in that part of the world. So I was useful to them, helped them do their job better so they had better insights to the operation. And they were willing to teach me more quickly about things about transportation, logistics, and distribution at that point, right? I would also say is early on, figure out what you don't know, figure out what those gaps are, and just be, there's people that say, I hate losing, right? It's like, I don't love winning, I hate losing. I don't love learning, I hate not knowing, right? So when I'm in a new job, when I'm in a new position, new company, it's not that I really want to learn everything about it. It's like I hate being the person that doesn't know enough, right? So if you've got that button, if you've got that like desire where it's like, all right, that's my motivation, and maybe it's learning, maybe you want to learn, but for me it was like, I hate being the person that doesn't know, and just asking questions, not having to, don't make people tell you twice, right? Write stuff down, figure out a way to remember it. Like, be that inquisitive person that can really draw information from your team. That to me was the best way to get that, that experience and to ramp up. And most importantly, find the person in that new area that knows the most and make them your friend. Get them lunch, bring them coffee, right? Ask them about their kids, pretend to care about European soccer, like whatever it takes. Make that connection with the person that knows the most so that all those things you don't know, they're willing to teach you. Yeah, great question.
So your main point, or maybe not your main point, but your first point of get started. So as somebody who wants to like open up their own business, getting started early, do you think that in some situations that can be a bad thing? Because like if I start up a business and it's not in like the best area and it's not the most ideal situation, like focusing on not waiting for the perfect opportunity to open it, I feel like seems like a very good idea. But at the same time, if you open up that business and it's not in like an area where you're going to succeed, how do you navigate to make sure that even though when you're starting early, you're not starting too early to the point where it can mess up like the rest of the stuff?
So, great question. I'm certainly not an expert in entrepreneurship, but I've worked with a lot of great entrepreneurs. What I would say is be capitalized. You know, make sure your financials and your business plan are in place. Make sure you have access to money, whether it's debt, whether it's your personal stuff. If you don't, most entrepreneurs, most new businesses fail because they lack access to capital. All right? Whether it's a good business plan or a bad business plan, let's assume it's a good business plan. If you don't have access to capital, and what that means is, if success means everything has to run perfectly, you will fail, because everything will not run perfectly. Okay, so make sure that you've got your primary fuel for a new business is access to capital, because you're going to need to be able to weather whatever storms, whether it's inventory, whether it's payables, whether somebody's not paying you on time. Right? If things have to work perfectly, you are probably, I'll give this PG, probably screwed. Right? So have that clear path where you can get access to capital to support your business plan, because things might go perfectly, but they probably won't. Okay? Now, what I would also say is, most successful entrepreneurs that I've met have failed a couple times, and they've learned those lessons the hard way. Right? I didn't take that path. Right? I have a very unsuccessful rental property business right now. It's fine. It's great for taxes. But from an entrepreneur standpoint, phenomenal that you've got a vision for that. That's where working for somebody is usually a slow path to success, but that's the riskiest path to success. But I salute you to have that vision on it. But be well capitalized, figure out your access to capital, because that's the fastest way to fail. Someone's laughing back there. You were
That's our tax professor back there.
You talked about having a vision in your life. Now that you've become that husband, that father figure, and like, what's now your vision? What's that new thing you're working towards?
Great question.
And then also, what's like the biggest thing you look back on and say, man, I wish I did this with that opportunity?
Okay. Still evolving the vision of, like, I'm not really sure what I want to be when I grow up either, right? I turned 50 this year. We're living longer and longer, thankfully. But I'm not sure what the next act is, right? From a personal standpoint, got a great family, right? Try to take care of things, try to support things, causes and other things financially that I'm interested in. We'll see. I'm not ready to hang up my spurs quite yet from a business standpoint, but it's probably going to be sooner versus later, because I don't live to work. So to be honest, coming here and doing this is a bit of a entree into, all right, maybe there's something different down the road. Maybe not, I don't know. But that's still evolving, right? So, I would say I'm happy, right? I'm fulfilled in my work, fulfilled in my personal life. To me, that was the goal. I've got another 40 years, right? I've got to figure that out. So in many ways, I'm not that much different from you. I'm just coming at it from a different place, 30 years of my career. So yeah, I'm not sure what I want to be when I grow up to the next step. I'll let you know. All right, that's a long throw for the Peach shirt. So I don't throw things to Steeler fans. Wow. Oh, sorry. Throw that there. I'm kidding. I'll get you next. And I don't run out of time, but I'm not going anywhere. This guy Class is next. What do you got?
Yeah. So obviously you've had a ton of jobs over the years, and I'm sure you've had more job offers than the ones you currently have. What would you say is like your best advice for someone who has a couple of different job offers and don't know which one is like the right one?
Opportunity, right? So don't necessarily pick the one that's the prettiest. Pick the one that's going to give you the best opportunity to learn the most, do the most things. Okay? So hardest thing starting out is this job offers $8,000 more. I should take that job. The hardest thing in the world is leaving money on the table to do something that's going to help you grow more. Because, it's nice to get more PlayStation games. It's nice to get better shoes. It's nice to get a better car. All that's great. But the prizes get a lot better the farther on you go. So if you can get, depends what your motivation is, but that's one of your motivations, if you can get that great opportunity earlier, you can get a company and a management team and others that are really interested in developing you, that's worth taking less money. That's worth picking the worst city. That's worth doing those things if your priority is to advance quickly on that. At the end of the day, you probably don't have a bad choice, right? You're just picking from a series of good options, right? And it's what you make of it when you start. So what I would say is, you've got a couple job offers, awesome. They're probably all great at different opportunities. So don't obsess over it. Don't get an ulcer over it. Pick the one that feels the best and gives you the potential for the most opportunity and just run with it, right? But don't make yourself sick over it. You're gonna be fine. So, all right.
If you guys got to get into another class, feel free to exit. If not, I would say hang out here and keep chatting.
Yeah, but thanks guys, appreciate it. All right, picked on.